good overview.
Well, thanks, Jansen Carm. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. In preparing to think about this, I thought about myself when I was your age. In 1973, I was sitting in college campus. I was a senior, and I was thinking about, what am I going to do when I graduate? I was so anxious to get out into the working world, had no idea what it was going to be like. So I tried to take myself back there. That was 40 years ago. I feel old. So I'm going to try and give you some of my perspectives, but this is, so I'm John Swanstrom. I'm going to talk a little bit what it's like to work as an engineer, but I'm really here for your benefit today. I'm not here to tell you about myself. I'm here to tell you things you want to know about and try to give some value to yourselves on this. So make sure that you ask questions at any time. Make this interactive. It's your time here. Make sure you get the info you want from me. You can ask tough questions. Ask whatever you want. Anything's fair question. I may not know everything. I've learned that in my career. And it's okay to leave. If you've got other things to do, if you've got other commitments, or this isn't meeting your needs, I'm not offended if you leave either. Okay. So, some of the topics that I talked to a few people here about what you might want to talk about. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background because that puts a little perspective on that, but a little bit about how education transformed my life experiences. But then other things is, well, what's it really like to work as an engineer, taking responsibility for your own career, some of the cool things I've been involved in. I'll tell you a little bit about engineering careers at HP and Agilent, what's changing with Agilent, and then I'm going to finish up with my observations on life. You'll get to hear those and that whether you want to or not, but the rest is yours. So that's what I'm kind of thought about, but the real thing is, what do you want to know about? So are there other things that come to mind we want to cover?
Where did you attend college?
Okay, where I attended college, okay. I will cover that, thank you. Other things? Yes?
Have any technological innovations changed how you work within the time you've been working?
Okay, so technological innovations change that. We'll definitely cover that. That's a good one, thank you.
Didn't it say that you worked in
Workload?
aerospace?
I'm sorry?
Workload?
Workload, we'll cover that. I've got my lovely wife over here is writing these down, so I don't forget that. Yes?
Didn't it say that you worked in the aerospace industry for a while?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so I'll cover the aerospace then. That's good, thank you. Because I didn't know how much to cover on that. I'll cover that for sure. But these are great, yes?
How much of your classroom knowledge actually went to workplace knowledge?
That is a good one. Yes, it is. Okay. How are we doing? We getting these down?
The second one I messed up on.
Okay, that's all right.
Don't ask the second one, but.
The classroom. So we'll come to a few of these things. So how much of the classroom knowledge? Okay. Good.
Anybody else?
Well, let's pause a couple times and we'll ask someone, because some of the things you may hear may cause a little bit of that. So, excellent one. How much of the classroom knowledge translated into what I do? That's a really good one. And I've given a lot of thought to that, and I have some thoughts. I don't have the total answer. It's not 64%. All right. Well, that's great. We'll go with this. So, a little bit of my background, and I grew up in the Midwest, northern Illinois, and I say in the middle of a cornfield. If you drive any direction for 100 miles, you would be in cornfields the whole time. And until I was 18 years old, I never left the county I was born in. That's a pretty sheltered life. And when I went to high school, freshman year, I got interested in amateur radio and built an amateur radio set. I started with Morse code, and I talked to an amateur in Reykjavik, Iceland. And that was the first time I was really aware that there was a world beyond a cornfield. And that's how sheltered I was. I just didn't travel, didn't see much. But that was kind of my window on the world. And I did that through high school. I built antennas, I built radios, and I talked to countries all around the world. And I got an education about the world, because every time I talked to someone on the radio, I found out about them. And when I went off to college, I became an engineer. And a lot of people ask me, how did you decide to become an engineer? I didn't decide. My father Both my grandfathers, all my uncles were engineers. And I thought that if you were a male, you were an engineer. And I really went to college with that thought in mind. I know it's crazy thinking about it today. There's many, many other careers. It happened to fit me well, but that's how I chose it. I didn't really realize I also, when I came to California, I got an MBA. And when I started attending MBA classes, I realized there's a lot of other careers out there. Hard to imagine. That's how ingrained I was to be an engineer. So that's a little bit where I came from. Let's see. I went to the University of Illinois. I was fortunate. I grew up in Illinois. And I went to the University of Illinois. It's a great engineering school. And I'm very proud to be there. But I'll tell you one thing. I've worked with a lot of schools since I've been working with Hewlett-Packard. There's a lot of great schools out there. And you can get a good education no matter where you go. That's one thing I've seen. I've worked with people that have been from all different universities. You can get a great education no matter where you go. Engineering, I think, is a hard classes and hard subjects. I had to work really hard. I think a lot of you work really hard. It has paid off immensely for me. The things I've been able to do in my career, the enjoyment that I've gotten out of my career has really been well worth the 4 years of hard work that I did at school. So I encourage you, if you get a little discouraged and you think it's hard, you got another 40 years of your life, you're going to be glad you worked hard in school, whatever you end up doing. I was fortunate when I graduated engineering, you're going to get a lot of job interviews and job offers. I had 23 job offers when I got out. It was in 1974. Things were maybe a little different then. But engineering is a good career to find jobs. And I've heard it say you'll never get rich being an engineer, but you'll always have a good employment and a good income. And that's true of all the engineers I've known. It's good life for that. I ended up coming to Southern California, an aerospace company, and out of the 23 job offers, the pay that I was offered was from $930 a month to $1,000 a month. Not a lot of money, but think of that. That was 40 years ago. It's a lot different today. I chose the lowest job offer, and a lot of people chose their highest job offer. That's a bad reason to choose. Choose something that you want to do in life. Now, I didn't do that. I chose aerospace because I grew up in the Midwest on the farm, and all these companies flew me out to different places. They said, would you like to come visit us in California? I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. I don't think I want to work in aerospace, but I'd love to come see Disneyland. And they said, well, come on out here. We'll send you to Disneyland. You come in and interview, and at the end of the interview, we'll understand if you say no. But because a lot of people don't always take the job. So they appreciated that I was honest with them. I appreciated the chance to go to Disneyland. I left the Midwest in the middle of a blizzard. I flew out of Chicago O'Hare Airport. I landed in Southern California. It was 80 degrees in December. I got my rental car and I drove on a freeway, a 4-lane freeway in each direction. And prior to that, I'd only driven on roads that had 1 lane each direction. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. You can kind of see I was a little bit starstruck. I pulled up into, there was a gas station across from the entrance to Disneyland. I got out of my rental car and I looked up. There were palm trees in front of Disneyland, the big Disneyland sign. It's 80 degrees. And this young girl in a bikini on roller skates skated up to me and she says, can I help you? She was a gas station attendant. In those days, you had to pay for it with cash and she'd make the change. And I was just like starstruck. Here I am in 80-degree weather Disneyland. And you know, you don't see bikinis in the Midwest in December. And so the best I could do is stammer, I'd like change for $1. I went to the payphone and I called my parents and said, I'm taking the job. And they said, well, your interview's not till Monday. And I said, it doesn't matter, I'm taking the job. That's how I came to be at an aerospace firm. I didn't want to work in aerospace, but I chose Southern California. It's similar. I've talked to a lot of people who make their first decision, their first choice that they make is maybe not the best one for them. It's okay. It worked out great for me. I had a great time in aerospace. I also figured out I wanted to do something different. So don't be afraid to try something and change is my is my thought on that. I tried aerospace. I had a great time there, but I also realized it wasn't for me. So, questions, comments about that? Yes?
What did you do with the aerospace company that you didn't like?
Good thing. What didn't I like about it? Now, it's a personal thing, but for me, the things that I worked on, I really enjoyed. So I'll tell you a little bit about them when we get to it, but I worked on the GPS satellites, the space shuttle. On that, I really enjoyed those. What I didn't like is the aerospace industry was a very up and down industry, and there was a lot of layoffs in the industry, and you moved around. I didn't like that. And the other thing I didn't like is a lot of the products the aerospace industry built, I didn't feel good about. For example, I designed antennas. I liked designing antennas for GPS satellites and the space shuttle. I think that's good for mankind. But I wasn't real enthused about designing an antenna for a missile, because I just didn't like the end use of that missile. So that's part of it for me. The other thing, I was a small farm kid, so as one was the type of work that we're doing, it just didn't feel good to me. Another thing, I was a small farm town kid in Southern California. It was just overwhelming to me. I loved it, I went to the beaches, but I just couldn't live there. I lived there 11 years, and I said it's time for me to get to a different location. So that was it. That's a personal thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question, thank you, yes.
How often did you go back to Disneyland?
I'm fortunate in my job. I work in marketing now. I get to travel a lot. And I know all of our salespeople and all of our technical people in Southern California. So I go there. That's the most common place I go. I'm probably down there, used to be every other month. And now it's 2 or 3 times a year I get back to Southern California. I love it. Yeah. And I haven't been to Disneyland since, the last 10 years. My daughters are now 30 years old, so they don't want to go to Disneyland. All right, well, great. Well, let's see. One thing that occurred to me is education's really transformed my life. If you think about it, if I hadn't gone to college, I'd still be living in that small farm town. And I probably would have traveled out of the state a few times, but my life just wouldn't have expanded as far as it has. I've been all around the world today in my career, and I've met people from all over the place. I have 283 really good friends in about 60 different countries from around the world. And every year, they're application engineers, which I am, and every year, the first 2 weeks in November, they come to Santa Rosa for 2 weeks of intensive training. I get to work with them. I get to see them. But more importantly, I've been to their countries. I've been to China, I've met their families, I've had dinner in their homes, I've been to India, you name it. I've been to all these countries. And I just look at that and go, what a great life. I got to see the world. And when I was sitting in the college at the University of Illinois, I never thought I'd leave Illinois. Just didn't envision that. So engineering helped me get there. There's other careers that can get you there too. So I've traveled all over. I've covered that. My 283 good friends. Yes?
Would you attribute that more to the position you're in right now in marketing, or did you travel more when you were just like an engineer or something like that?
Yes, so good question. What attributed all this travel around the world? I did, as an engineer, I traveled a few times, a few different places, but in marketing, you certainly get out and see the world much more. And so I attribute most of my travel to working in marketing. It's a technical role. I have an MBA, so I combine my engineering knowledge with my technical. And so some of the things that I do is I help our customers and our application engineers in all these different countries solve customer problems. And that's a great thing. I do it mostly by email and by telephone, but periodically I get to travel. So I'll go to Asia every other year. I'll go to Europe every other year. We've been to South America, and I go there, and that's where I meet them. I meet their customers and all. So I think marketing gets you out traveling more. There's more travel. The world's a lot smaller place today with airplanes, so you get out more as an engineer. And that's some good questions. So I've had a great career. I'm towards the end of my career. I'm 62 years old. I'm going to work 2 or 3 more years, and I'm done. And I'm not ready to be done with my career. It's just that I'm that age that I need to think about doing something else. So I've had a great life on that. Cindy, what's a couple questions there? What's the first question?
Well, there was a workload.
Yeah, okay, workload. I want to cover workload. Well, maybe I should cover workload when I get to
You've got,
what I do.
Yeah, where you attended college was one of the.
Okay, so we got that.
That's aerospace.
Aerospace. Did I cover the aerospace? Give you enough information about aerospace? I'll talk a little bit more about what I did at aerospace and fascinating things. They do some amazing technology in aerospace. Okay, well, any questions before I go on to what it's like? Okay. What's it like to work as an engineer? I had to put myself where you are. First thing that goes to my mind, you go from a consumer to a contributor. And by that, you're really buying an education. You're paying the school that you go to for them to teach you and give you something of value. You're a consumer. Now, I imagine it doesn't feel like that when you're doing homework. It kind of feels like you're working pretty hard, and you are. But you're kind of consuming, and you get to make what you want to make of your education. When you go out into the workplace, they're going to be looking for you to make a contribution. And they're going to be looking for you to make a contribution daily, monthly, yearly. You do that. Now, I'll tell you, the first couple of years, it's really an investment in you. Whoever employs you is looking at, they're investing in great potential. And you all will have, if you have an engineering degree, if you have a degree from college and you've worked hard, you have great potential. And every company that I've known what they're doing is they're looking at the potential that you bring to them, not the contribution that you make. But after 2 or 3 years, they're going to look to get a return on that investment, that you can start to make a contribution out there. And so that should be your goal in your career is, what contribution can I make? And the value that you have in your career, the enjoyment that you get out of your career, and where you go in your career, I think has a lot to do with the contributions that you make out there. Now, it might sound a little scary. It would to me at that time. It'll come easy because you've got the skills from your college that help you do that. And I guess that kind of goes to this one right here. You have some great skills that you learn in school. Critical thinking skills, problem solving skills. You aren't given the answers of how to solve some of your projects and how to manage your time and do the different things you are. That's something you acquire in your college experience. And these skills that you get really prepare you for your career. And that'll help you a lot. And more than you imagine. When I first, I studied microwaves primarily in the antenna test, and I learned in school about voltage standing wave ratio, VISWAR. I thought I knew everything there was to know about VISWAR, because by golly, I had studied it for 4 years. And I got out into industry, and they said, we'd like you to measure the return loss of this device. I had no idea what they were talking about. Return loss is another word for VISWAR. I'd never heard it before. Can you imagine how that made me feel? I just like, what? I was so ready. That's typical. You are, and yet I had another engineer. He was probably been there for 4 to 6 years. He says, oh, John, let me explain to you what return loss is. It's just like VISWAR. It's just a different term. I could pick it up because I had the skills to assimilate information. So I figured that out. You'll have a lot of those you'll have quite a few experiences like that where you're like, I don't know what they're talking about. You've got the skills to figure it out. So that's one of the things I remember when I first started out is, gosh, what about this? My first thought when I got a job in aerospace industry, I sat at a desk and I thought, can I do this job for the next 40 years? And over the next 11 years, only the first year or so was that thought there. Within 2 years, my job at the aerospace firm had changed enough. It was like, wow, this is really new and interesting. And then about the time I was like, oh, I've kind of mastered this, it changes again. I've seen that throughout my career. Whatever engineering career you choose, it changes and it really moves and changes a lot. So don't be worried about it being boring because there's change out there. Things really change in this world and they change in your engineering career and you'll have plenty of challenges. I came to Hewlett-Packard because I wanted to leave Southern California, the congestion. I wanted to leave aerospace It just didn't fit me. And I came to Hewlett Packard, which was a great test and measurement company, which I became aware of because I was working in the aerospace industry. And they sat me down at a desk and they said, your job is to answer the telephones from all the people in Southern California, our salespeople, our technical people, and answer whatever question they have. Technical questions, that was a good part of the job. But a lot of the questions were, how much does that product weigh? Not a really challenging job. And I got to thinking, you know, I didn't go to school to go weigh an instrument. What are the dimensions of this? I had to go measure that. How big is the box that it comes in? Those weren't fun jobs for me. I didn't like that. And occasionally I get a technical question. And I sat there and I thought, can I do this for the next 40 years? Well, about 2 years later, I was doing a totally different job that really fit me well. I mention that because I've had, in my 40 years, I've had 3 jobs where I felt like these were kind of the worst things that I want to do in my career. Sitting there answering a telephone, weighing instruments, just didn't. I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about people, and I learned a lot about the business, believe it or not. That was a really good learning experience for me. So you're going to have probably in your career some point where you have to do something that you'd say, why did I go to college for this? I suggest you consider that that's just going to be a small portion of your career. Wouldn't sit there too long and do it, but that's one part of it. Another time, you probably read the papers or heard about Agilent has done a lot of downsizing here in the county. Not a good time. It's change. It's part of change. I was working as a manager at our lightweight division. I thought, boy, I'd really, you know, I'm doing well in my career. And then the lightweight business just imploded. There was no sales. Nobody needed any products. And they sent me down to our manufacturing area and they said, John, would you like to be a quality engineer? And in my whole career, I thought the last thing that I want to do is be a quality engineer. That's just not what I want to do in life. And suddenly I was being asked, do you want to be a quality engineer? And I think my other alternative, or we don't have another job for you. So I said honestly, I said, no, being a quality engineer will be a big challenge. And I'd like to give it my best, and I'd like to do the best I can to be a quality engineer. And I said that meaning it, but I really had to live the talk. So it was really hard for me because that's the last thing I wanted to do. And I had to learn things that I didn't want to learn, had to do things I didn't want to do. That was another good learning experience. Now I found out I don't want to be a quality engineer, but I made the best of it. And I learned things about product quality that I just never appreciated before. And I think it's had some help in that. So trying to answer your question, what's it like to work? You're going to have to do some things you don't like sometimes. I think I would encourage you to be as positive as you can with those areas and try and make the best of them. Because over your career, you're going to have lots of good times. Yes?
Another question kind of similar to what I had about aerospace. What about quality control didn't you really like? Because I'm a manufacturing engineering major, so
Yes.
quality control is probably something I might end up in.
Yes.
And I just want to know,
Yeah.
you know, what about it?
Well, and keep in mind, this is personally made. So their quality is very important. I learned that. And in any product out there, Agilent and HP, one of the most important things we're known for is the quality of our products. I just didn't want to be responsible for that. I just didn't. I don't know why. It's a personal thing. It's a very important thing. And in fact, one time I was watching a business show on a Sunday, and they talked about Hewlett Packard. They're talking about this company's in energy, this company's in this company's in that field. And they said, Hewlett Packard, company known for quality. And if you ask our customers, what do they value most of our product? It's quality. I just didn't know how to put my arms around quality and how to make a difference in that. And that's what I had a challenge, is personally with me. It's a great thing to do. It's really needed. It's really valued. I guess I was scared of it. Didn't know how to do it. That's why I didn't want to do it. It was interesting. I had to face that fear and go, I need to make a contribution here. And that was my personal growth. How could I do that? So I don't know that I've totally answered your question, what I didn't like about it, but it's more of a personal thing.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for me. Yes?
And kind of shifting gears, I know you mentioned over your career you've been from different companies to one another. How, I guess, easy or difficult was it to transition from one place to another? Because I know, like, if one company, like you said, is making certainly an investment in your potential, and then you say, well, thanks, but I don't really feel like doing this anymore, I'm going up over here.
Mhm.
I mean, did they take that well? Was it, I mean, what was their reaction? How easy or difficult was it?
Yeah, so good question. How, making this change from one company to the next, what's that like? Is it because they are making an investment in you? I've seen it a couple ways. When you first get out of school, I think companies expect you to come there and give it a good year try. I think that's a fair thing, and they're hoping you'll try it for 2 years. I think a year, if you switch less than a year, and you do that too many times, that probably doesn't look good to your fourth or fifth employer is going to look at that. So I'd encourage you to stay there a year or two, for sure, if they want to see that. But I think companies also expect, when you're young, you don't know for sure what you want to do. And that's very universal, and they expect that. So if you're there learning and working and doing your job, I think they're fine if you say, you know, I think I want to go do something else. And it's a little bit how you phrase it. If you say, I'm fed up with this company, I don't like it, they're probably not going to feel real good with that. If you say, if it was myself and I hired in to be a quality engineer, and I said, you know, I've discovered that being a quality engineer is really not for me. I just can't seem to get engaged with being a quality engineer. I want to go do marketing at this other company. I think companies understand that. So it's a little bit how you, that's what I've seen. And don't be afraid to change. If you try the job for a year or two and you say, I'm not sure this is for me, perfectly okay to change. It's a real good time to change early in your career to find out what you want to do. And companies understand that. Great questions. I've covered some of this. So I was a real nerd. I was not very socially skilled. I was real good at solving problems with a slide rule, solving them on my own. I did my homework on my own. I did my tests on my own. I did my work on my own. When I got out in the working world, I discovered that it's a social environment. You have to interact and work with others in a team. Now many of you have got good social skills. I did not have that. So that was a real learning to myself. So that's one of the things that that was a learning for me is in the work environment, it's probably more important, your teamwork and how you work with others is a really important part of working out there. You don't have to be the most intelligent, the most skilled person out there to be successful in your career, but you do have to work with others. You have to work as a team. And the better you can do that, probably the better. I talked to my manager before I came here yesterday, and I said, you know, what do you look for in a person? He says, someone that's a team player, someone that likes their job and is enthused about their job, someone that wants to make a contribution and help out. He didn't say, I'm looking for a really bright person with a lot of skills. Someone that comes in there to do that. Of course, skills and intelligence, it helps. You wouldn't be an engineering student if you didn't have that. But that's kind of the thing that I found out in my career where I really had to develop is in my social skills. I was terrible as a public speaker. My writing skills, English was terrible, and I just couldn't communicate with people very well. So I had to work on that. If you've got those skills, they enhance your career for sure. If you don't, you can work on them. So, other things, I heard this one kind of a story probably 20 years ago. This person goes up and he sees this stone quarry, and there's people in there and they've got sledgehammers and they're busting up rocks with a sledgehammer. His curiosity gets the best of this person. They go up to one of the men there and he says, excuse me, but I'm really curious, what are you doing? And the guy stops his work, it's hot, he's sweating, and he says, what's it look like I'm doing? I'm busting up rocks with this sledgehammer. Person says, well, guy's not too happy, kind of gonna leave, but really curious. There's all these people in there, they're pounding on rocks with sledgehammers, so it couldn't help to go up to another person. He says, excuse me, sir, but I'm really curious. What are you doing? And And the man stops his work and he says, "I'm building a cathedral." And he pulls out of his back pocket a sketch that he'd drawn of this cathedral. He says, "See, this is a cathedral that my family is going to be able to go to sometime, and my children and their children and their children are going to be able to go to." And he says, "See those rocks at the base? Those are the foundation of the cathedral. And that has to be a really good, strong foundation so that this can last for hundreds of years. This stone that I'm working on, I have to make it square and strong so it'll be a good foundation." I like that parable. I remembered it for 20 years because it really goes to both of them are doing the same job. But which person would you rather be? The person busting rocks or the person building a cathedral? Look at your career the same way. You know, think of what you're doing in the bigger picture. I also like to talk to my company and I ask them, "Hey, what's the goals of our company?" If you go in as a young employee and you ask that question, that's going to be really powerful. It'd be good to know what they are, goals of the company. What's the goal of the division that I work for? What are you guys trying to do? How about our department? I ask my manager every year, "What goals do you have for this next year? And how can I help meet those goals?" And it catches him a little flat-foot. I ask him that every year, and he stumbles around. He's got the goals down. He's got some ideas how I can help him. I go off and I think about it for a few days. And I come back and say, "I thought of a few more ideas of what I can do." That's really powerful. So I encourage you when you get out there in the working world, ask those questions right there. Other thing I found out, it's a business. I was an engineering student. There was one right answer. You know, you take an engineering test, there's usually one right answer. In the business world, not so much so. Even though we're a technical company and I'm working as an engineer, you might be working as an engineer. There's not always one right answer to every problem. It is a business and they make business decisions. I think if you try and understand the business decisions and try and support them, that's a good thing. That'll help you in your career. And it's really okay to influence those business decisions. You can make an effect on the business decisions. And that'll be a powerful thing. So when you go out there, do it. You might think that, well, I'm just new to this company and I don't have a whole lot to contribute. I'd encourage you to think about it a little bit differently. You have new ideas and new ways of doing things, and that's desperately needed out there. One of the things they hire new people for is for new ideas, and I see that every day. I'm working with two young women. They've both been out of college. One's been out of college for 2 years, and she comes and looks at me as this wise old man that knows everything. And I look at her and go, "I don't know much anymore. You're so sharp. You've got all these great ideas." She does. She's really got a lot of great ideas. So do you out there. So make an influence. You can do it. Today's environment, you have great opportunities to do that. Okay, before I go into the next thing, questions on career. I tried to cover career on this.
Classroom knowledge.
Yeah, classroom knowledge. That was a good thing. So, that you had asked about. My thoughts on your classroom knowledge is you're learning skills, critical thinking skills, how to solve problems. And that knowledge will help you do things in your job. So for example, I knew about VisWar and I knew the theory about VisWar, and I got out there and they talked about return loss. I had no idea what they're talking about. But the skills I had when I learned about VisWar allowed me to learn what return loss was very easily. So it helped out to that. It'll help you a lot in the start of your career. If you're a programmer, the programming skills you have, they'll work really good. If you're working with people that have been programming for a while, you have much better programming skills than they do. So that amount of classroom knowledge, I think, will really help you a lot. The things that endure, though, are kind of the skills that you learn in school. So it's kind of two things. You learn critical thinking skills, and at first a lot of the skills help you transition into your job. So the type of skills I learned, I used Fortran programming when I was in college. You know, they haven't used Fortran for about the last 35 years. So that hasn't helped me much, but it helped me the first 5 years of my career. So there's things that you learn there that aren't good. I'd focus more on the skill sets that you learn in college. That's what helps you. If you come to Hewlett Packard and you go for a job interview, they're going to ask you some questions. And they're not looking for knowledge that you know as to how you approach the question and the logic that you use and the way you approach that problem. They're not looking for a right answer. They're looking at how do you approach the problem to solve that question. So, and in fact, if you just come up with an answer, they're going to ask you another question because they want to find out. So I don't know if that really addresses it. It's a good question.
No, I get that, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a hard one to say exactly. Okay. Well, your career, I found over my career that you have to take responsibility for your own career. Nobody else is going to do that for you. You can ask for assistance. You can talk to your manager. You can ask a mentor. Find someone in the company that you really admire and ask them, hey, would you mentor me? I'd like to talk to you once a month about my career, where I'm going with this company. Excellent idea to do that. I doubt anyone would ever say, no, I'm too busy. I don't want to do that. Everyone I've asked was honored to do that, and it was really helpful to me. So ask for that. I think it's good to have a plan of what you want to accomplish in your career. I had a plan. It didn't go exactly as I thought it would be, but I always had a plan. And every year I'd look at my plan and I'd say, is this where I want to go? Is this what I want to be doing? And every year I'd have to change it a little bit because my desires, my needs changed a little bit, and the career that I was in changed a little bit. When I was in aerospace, loved what I was doing in aerospace. I was just fascinated. Building a satellite, a GPS satellite, working on the space shuttle, fascinating things. But I said, do I want to work in aerospace long term? Do I want to live in Southern California? And my answer to both those was no. So I was like, okay, what are you going to do? So I was working on a plan. I said, okay, I'm going to work X number of years to get some experience. I was going to work 7 years. I ended up being there 11 years. But I had a plan to work 7 years. And so I was always kind of looking at my plan. Okay. Doesn't always work out. I thought it'd be 7 years I'd be gone. Share your plans, goals, and desires with your managers. It's really powerful if you can go to a manager at any stage of your career and say, here's what I'd like to do. Here's where I want to go. Here's what I want to be doing. How can you help me? How can I get there? That's very powerful. You're taking control of that. And then reflect on those once in a while. Okay, questions, comments? Is this helpful, interesting? Yes?
I got another question. I'm just wondering, so like during your career though and everything, like I'm sure you've had like other ideas, maybe things like that you wanted to maybe build even on your side, like on your spare time, if you ever had a spare time. I'm wondering, like, is there anything you ever like personally thought, hey, I want to make that one day, or you know, or something like that, and did you ever find that time to work on it?
Excellent question. I'll answer it a little differently. No, I didn't. I wish I had, but I've known several friends in my career who have. One person up there, Dr. Joel Dunsmore, colleague of mine, he'd be a great speaker here. Joel he's intelligent, he's very skilled, and he's very passionate about what he does. And Joel's job at our company is to come up with great ideas. And every year he comes up with a new idea. And when he brings it up at the first, everyone goes, are you crazy? Where did you get this idea? Some of the best ideas that have come out of our company up there have come from him. And yet every time when he brings something up, we think he's a little bit crazy. It's like, where'd you get this idea? So yes, I think it's a great thing to do. Personally, I haven't done that much. I get to work with others. In fact, one of the products, I'm a product manager, and I'll talk about that. I'm managing one of the products that Joel Dunsmore came up with. He got this great idea. Everyone thought he was crazy. It can't be done. A year later, it was done, and now I get to manage that product. He's off doing something else. I wish I'd done that. You'll have the opportunity to do it. Good question. Thank you for that. Okay. Okay, talked about taking responsibility. Talk a little bit about yes, Chance.
Just along the same idea, I guess it's not really homework, but how much like homework do you tend to have in your career, like, on your weekends? How much of that time was yours, or
Yeah.
were you doing work from business?
Yeah, excellent thing, because when you're a student, you're never really done, are you? It's never really done. That's the nice thing about a career. I find over my career, I work about 9 hours a day, I'm done. I go home, I'm done. In today's work environment, I'm never done with the work that I've got. I'm an application engineer, and I get questions from around the world. And every day when I go home, there's 2 or 3 questions I haven't answered. I go home after 9 hours. I'm done, I go home. I don't have homework. I don't do that much. And over my career, I haven't had to do that much. There's been a few times when I've gotten a little bit behind, and it's more a case where I haven't managed my time well, and I've gotten behind, where I feel like, okay, I should have done a better job this week. I'm behind in what I committed to, and I'll work maybe a Saturday or something like that. I haven't done that much in my career, so that's a good thing. And now, I'm not working for a startup, and I guess I know a few people who are working for startups that work 90-hour weeks for even years. I know one person did that for 2 years. The startup didn't go, and they were kind of like, I don't think I'll ever do that again. I'm like, I wish, I don't want to work that hard myself, but there are people that do that. In my career, I haven't had to do much of that. That's a good thing. Yes, Kara.
Kind of combining education and career, have you found that your master's degree has done a lot to advance your career? Because I know as an engineer, that's something that we kind of toss up and back and forth is, should I go for the master's or shouldn't I go for the master's? Yes. Excellent question.
I asked myself that question when I was in school. Should I go for it or not? My choice was, when I got out of school, I wanted to go out and work in the working world for a couple of years, and then I would come back. And that was my plan, to come back and get my master's degree in engineering. I worked for a couple of years in the aerospace industry, and I decided I want to go back to school, but I'm going to try something different. I'm going to take one business class. I took a business law class. I loved it. And I ended up getting my MBA. I'm really glad I worked for a couple of years in industry, because it gave me more of an idea of what I wanted to do. And I found out I liked the business classes. I had my engineering degree. I could learn a little bit more with the master's. The people that came out and graduated at the same time I did and got a job got paid a little bit more than I did because they had a master's degree. 5 years later, it didn't make a difference in their pay. It was what they could contribute. And I don't think I would have been able to contribute any more with a master's degree myself. So that's what I chose, to go out there and work in the world and then come back. Now, it's hard once you get out there and you don't have homework, and you've got money, to say, I'm going to go back to school. So that's one thing you need to trade off. It's a personal decision. For me, my MBA gave me a window to a different career. I got into marketing, and I understand the business aspect better, so that worked out well. Engineering degree is good. You're 4 years at it. Do you need a master's? It's your personal decision on that. So, yes, Chance.
Did you stop working for a while to go back to school, or did you work at the same time?
Yeah, so I went to, I was working in Southern California. I went to Cal State University Fullerton, and started working at night. Took 2 classes a semester at night, and I did that. And I did that for several years, and then I thought, I'm getting kind of tired of this. I asked my employer for a 1 semester leave of absence, so I could take, 6 classes that semester. So I did a little both on that. Employers are really, I think, when you're young, are very encouraging of you going back to school, because it pays good dividends for them. So, yes?
Have you ever seen a company just straight up pay for you to go back to school full time?
Yes, I have. My company has done that a lot. We have, a lot. Less than 5% of our employees, probably even less than that. I'm in a group of 12 employees, immediate group. One young man went to school and got his master's going to night school, and he wanted to get his PhD, and they go, we'll pay for your whole PhD, and we'll let you take as much time off as you need to do that. So that was pretty good. Another woman in our group, she wanted to get her master's, and they paid her full-time to go get her master's at Stanford. And she was off work full-time, and I think they paid her 80% of her pay while she did that. Not as much, these times are a little economically tighter these days, but we have another woman up there that just completed her bachelor's degree from Sonoma State University and in computer programming, and they paid for the whole thing, and they gave her time off work. She worked part-time, but they paid full-time for pay. So it can be done. Gets back to that having a plan and knowing where you want to go. If you bring a good and compelling case to your company about what you want to do, you've got a really good chance of getting that. You may not get it the first time you ask, but if you're consistent and say, this is what I want to do, and here's why I want to do it, here's how it will help you, that's the best way to sell that.
Is there more of an incentive for them to send you back to college if it's for if you're like researching something for that company?
Yes. That's if there's the more you can tie in a benefit to that. So the particular person who Warren Betts, who got his PhD, he was proposing. We have something that's called S parameters up there. It's our network analyzers measure linear parameters of devices, microwave devices. He had proposed nonlinear device parameter modeling and wanted to get his PhD in it. S parameters provided over $1 billion of revenue to our company. X parameters is going to provide over $1 billion. They didn't know that when they funded his PhD. They thought it has the potential of being good business. It's paid off huge. $1 billion over probably the next 20 years from his PhD work. Didn't know it at the time. So a couple of successes like that pay for a lot of different bets they put on students. Yeah.
Did he get a raise?
I would assume he's going to be well compensated for this. I can tell you he's having a great career. He's a great guy, and he enjoys what he's doing. He's created a lot of value there. I owe a lot of the work that I've done and been able to do to what he's done. So in that sense, he's had a great career, and I'm sure he's well paid for that. Yeah. Good, these are great questions. Okay, well, I want to go back to what's Iran got to do with being an engineer? Not a whole lot. I've been all over Iran. Because just about any major city in Iran, I was there. How'd that happen? Remember that farm boy from Illinois? Didn't think he'd ever leave Illinois? I went to work at this aerospace firm in Southern California, and my background was microwaves and communications. I was an amateur radio. I knew how radio waves propagated, just from an amateur radio guy. They said, we're looking for some people to go work as the U.S. advisors team to Iran to help build a microwave communication system inside of Iran. Would you be interested in going? It's a 2-year commitment. I'm like, yeah, never been outside the country. And that gets to a question, as an engineer, do you get a chance to travel? I did. I was like, take me. Never been to Iran. I've never been outside the U.S. I got to go over there, see the countryside. It was a long time ago. There was not much infrastructure there, and it was a great experience. I saw all these different cities. Transportation wasn't real good, so we went by helicopters. I landed in a village. They'd never seen a mechanized vehicle. Not a car, not a truck, not a bike. They were so isolated. Helicopter landed, big jet engine, making all this noise, blowing dust. They thought it was all that come out of the sky. And I was just like, wow, how lucky is this? I was 25 years old. I was in Iran. So I didn't know. That was a great experience for me, and it was one of the peak experiences of my career. Didn't have a whole lot to do with engineering, although I got some great engineering experience there. Building the communication systems, I learned more about civil engineering than electrical engineering. Had a great time.
When did you clear out of there, before '79?
Yeah, I did. I got out of there just shortly before the Shah. Things changed politically there. And fortunately, just before. Some of my colleagues were still over there and had even more interesting getting out of there. I don't know if you've ever heard or seen the movie On Wings of Eagles. It was about some American contractors that were in Iran working for Ross Perot's company. He had a computer company there. And they kind of got trapped in Iran and they got out of Iran. Some of my colleagues, very similar, when the change there. It's a political change. Yes. So I was out. I was fortunate. I got out. One of the first things I did, I worked in microwave, and I was in amateur radio, and I did antennas. So they go, John, why don't you work on antennas? And I'm like, oh, it's a lot of math in antennas. I don't know if I want to do it. So we'll give it a try. I tried it. I really liked it. That was where I found. So they had a concept. Rockwell International was the aerospace firm that I worked for. They were making inertial navigation systems. And inertial navigation systems, you have a plane in San Francisco International Airport, you zero it in and tell it where it's at, and it measures the acceleration as it flies, and it uses all the changes in the acceleration to know where it's going. Problem is, a little bit of error keeps getting, over 6,000 miles keeps getting added up, and you're off quite a bit. So this company I was working, Rockwell International, 40,000 engineers, mostly working on inertial navigation systems. And some of the scientists there said, we can't get any better with this. We need to get a new concept. And if we could put satellites up in orbit around the Earth and beam down a signal and very accurately measure the timing on that, we could triangulate and know the position on the Earth. And if we could build that, we could build a GPS unit about the size of a student refrigerator, and we could put it into trucks, trucking companies, and we'd sell them for about 1/4 the cost of a house in California, and that would help find efficient routes for trucks. And I thought, I didn't believe it. I thought, there's just no way you can get the accuracy of these satellites up here. But I worked on that, and I worked on the antenna design, and I sat across the hall from some of these scientists who were talking about that. It was fascinating to listen to that. Well, we all know GPS now. You can get it on your cell phone, it's incredibly accurate, it works very well. I'm proud to be a part of that. It was a really fun thing. I worked on that. Those antennas, all those antennas on that satellite, I designed. Most of them I touched there. So that was a fun thing that I did. Space shuttle, same thing. A reusable spaceship. Who else can build that but an aerospace firm? So I got to work on, there are 23 different antennas on that shuttle. I worked on and designed 7 of those antennas. Design, develop, build, and test. And I did that for probably 4.5 years. Really fascinating. I got to see a shuttle landing, never saw a launch. Got to talk to some of the astronauts, got to fly the shuttle simulator. It was a pretty cool thing. And then when I came, yes, Chance.
Oh, just kind of a comment on the antennas you're talking about for the shuttle. You help design them and test them. And how much time do you spend doing both design work at a desk with a computer versus, in a lab, testing it, seeing how it responds? I mean, do you sit down a lot, or you computer a lot, or you get to, kind of enjoy the whole building you work in, not just your cubicles?
Yeah, good question. Because my idea when I was a student is you design everything on a piece of paper at your desk, and then you go out and build it, and it just works. It didn't work that way. I don't know where I got that idea. I guess I just didn't have enough labs. That was one of my concerns too, because I thought, can I sit at a desk and design all day long, day after day after day? And my job was 60% of the time I was up away from my desk doing other things. The whole time I worked on all these things. So that was good, because I liked that interaction. I like to move around. So then I mentioned marketing. I came to work for Hewlett-Packard, and I got to work in marketing, and I wanted to count up the number of countries I've been to, but I didn't have time to do that. I haven't been to Russia yet. I haven't been to Africa yet. I haven't been to Greenland, but I've been to several of the countries in South America, all the European countries, and a whole lot in Asia. I've got to travel a lot, and I've really enjoyed that a lot. So that's kind of what I've done. Yes?
Do you know the languages of this, or just English?
So you would think for all the traveling I've done, I would do that. I've been to France 22 times. I've spent probably 22 months in France over my 28-year career. You'd think I'd know more than a couple words of French. I'm not a linguist. I didn't pick it up. I have a colleague of mine, he travels and he can tell a joke in any language. Now, I can't converse, but he can tell a joke in just about any language anywhere he's been. I don't know how he does it. I can't. So, but I know the cultures, 283 friends from around the world. Okay. Careers at Agilent, I want to cover we have three main types of careers. R&D engineer, they design and develop hardware, circuit boards that do specific functions, and software engineers. The software is the biggest part of it. It used to be 80% hardware, 20% software. Now it's 80% software, 20% hardware. They both need to work together. These guys are really creative and they can make really good things. The creativity, I think, is in the software these days, but a good hardware designer is really, they work in their cubicle and they work pretty good, but they work as part of a team. And they work together as a team. Production engineering, they solve production problems, and their challenge is to make things producible, reliable, and drive down the cost out of the process. And that's a unique challenge in that. Then marketing engineers, that's what I am. I have an engineering degree, but I also have a business degree. I need to understand what users need and want of our products and why they need that. I need to understand their alternatives, what their competitors offer, how we can offer better value to our customers, and how we can get better value. And I get to work with both the R&D and the production engineers with these ideas. That question back there, who's the innovative people? This is my opportunity to be innovative. I've just gone to an R&D engineer who's very innovative. I bring him a problem, here's a challenge, he's the one that innovates. But I had the opportunity to do it. So those are the types of jobs and careers that we have there. But look at what I do. Technical marketing is what I do. I combine my engineering skills with business skills. My business card, and I put some of these out, you're free to take. If you have a question that comes up anytime, you can email me or call me. But I help customers solve their tough measurement application problems. For example, a couple weeks ago, Space Systems Morale, down in the Bay Area, they make communication satellites. They're building a new satellite and they want to test it. Very complex testing. They said, we really need some expert help on that. I've been doing this for a long time. I got to go down there, understand all their measurements and help them. It's a really good thing to be able to help them with that. I got a call from Northrop Grumman in the Ohio region. They're measuring a space-based component, and they say, we don't know how to measure this. We don't know how to calibrate that. This morning, I was on the phone helping them with that. They were like, boy, thank you very much. Really helpful. It feels good to be able to help them. And they say, how do you know this? I've been doing it for 30 years or 28 years. That's how I know that. People look at me and say, gosh, how do you know this? I've been doing it for 28 years. When you get out there, you'll say, I don't know how to do anything. I didn't either when I started. You just don't know, but you got your skills, and that's what you'll build on. And a few years later, 3 years later, you'll be doing things you'll say, I have no idea. I manage a couple product lines, but a lot of diverse challenges. Teamwork, working with people, making them successful. I try and understand our customers' needs, future needs, and they don't always understand what they need, but when they tell me their problems, I have to try and figure that out. I work with our R&D team and our manufacturing team. And bottom line, I make a contribution to our customers' daily work problems by being an application engineer, giving value to them. So that's what I do. A little bit about change, and you're going to see a lot of change in your career. That's the one thing I can guarantee you'll see is change. Embrace it. Take it on. It helps keep things interesting. My job every 2 years has changed enough that it keeps it interesting for me. Big changes. Hewlett-Packard was the world's best equipment. And when I started working there, I said, by God, I'm going to work for Hewlett-Packard for my entire career. It's going to be a great company building test equipment. Well, they started, when computers came along, they started building computers. And they used a lot of the money that they earned from test equipment to build computers. And then, of course, computers got really popular and you needed printers, so they built printers. And they split off into two companies. I was like, darn, they get to keep the name. I was Agilent, we built test equipment. So that's change. Again, what's happening at Agilent? Agilent used the profits from test equipment this year to build a life science company. I'm not in life sciences, I don't know anything about it. I was like, hey, does this make sense? It's a business decision. They built it, they're going to split again. Agilent will be the life science company. EMCO is, we're calling it electronic measurements company. They're going to have a new name probably in January. So main thing is, there's going to be a lot of change. Change is good. Change keeps it interesting. Embrace change. If you don't embrace change, it's going to happen anyhow. And you probably won't be you'll be frustrated. Okay. A few observations in life. Then I'm going to be done. I'll stay here as long as you have questions, but I also realize you got things to do here. So it's about a career, but it's about life. You know, life's not fair, but over the long haul, it all evens out. When I first started my career, I expected everything to be fair. It wasn't. This guy gets paid a little bit more than I do. This guy's got a better job than I do. I can tell you a few years later, it just doesn't matter. Give your best in all you do. A small little bit of difference can really make a big difference over your career. So I approach my job every day trying to do the best I can. And it's made me successful, and it's made my career enjoyable. I like that. People that haven't done well in their careers, they get discouraged and they aren't doing their best. Find your passion and pursue it. If you do, you'll have a good career. Doesn't matter whether it's manufacturing engineering, quality engineering. Find a passion, go for it. You'll do well at that. If you don't like what you're doing, try something else. Biggest mistake I've seen people make in their careers, they get into a job they don't like and they start complaining about it rather than doing something about it. And it's kind of a downward spiral. Don't let yourself get trapped into that. Try it for a while, try and make the best of it, but if it's not working, it's perfectly okay to change. Companies expect you to change, and especially if it's not working for you. And if I talk to personnel up there, they say the worst problem they have is someone that's unhappy in their job and doesn't want to do anything about it. So take it on yourself, change it. Embrace change, boy, it's going to happen, make the most of it. Enthusiasm and desire are more important than intelligence and skill. Don't get me wrong, intelligence and skill are good. Joel Dunsmore, he's got a ton of intelligence and skill. He innovates every year. I wish I could do that. Enthusiasm and desire, when I interview someone, I'm looking for someone who's really enthusiastic. I want to work for this company. I want to do this job. I want to do this type of work. That's the person I'll take every time over that. And that's served me well in my career there too. And you can all have enthusiasm and desire. Positive attitude is infectious and powerful. That's a really good thing. And then don't be afraid to go after what you like in life and your career. Go for it. You can set what you do. Don't let your company set that for you. Teamwork is very important, I've discovered, more so than I realized. A lot of you, just meeting you, you've got good skills in that. Persistence is a good trait. You know, there's a question over here, can you send me to school? If you ask them to send you to school and pay for it, probably the first time you ask that question, the answer is going to be no, I'm sorry, we can't do it for this reason. But I guarantee you, if you persist over that, you have a much higher chance of getting that. So persistence is good. This one, someone told me, they said, when you start as an engineer, you're never going to get rich. I save 10% of my income. You won't miss the 10%. And by golly, over a career, that adds up to a lot of money. So in a sense, I've been very rich in my career and what I've gotten to do, and I've saved my money. Don't take yourself too seriously. I had to learn that. Have fun in your job and your career. I had a manager tell me, he asked me one day, he says, John, are you having fun? What do you mean? I'm working. I said, no, are you having fun? He says, I want you to have fun every day that you come here. Wow, he gave me permission to have fun. You don't need permission. I didn't need it. It was kind of neat. It's okay to have a good time. Laugh, enjoy it, work hard, enjoy your life, and be happy. You'll have a good life and a good career. So with that, that's what I had to say. I thank you for your time and interest in this. If you got places to go, I understand. If you got questions, I'll stay here for a while. Pick up a card if something comes to your mind. Have a great career and a great life.
Hey guys, before you leave real quick, I know it's getting kind of late, about 2:45 or so. There's another group coming in to use the room at about 3 o'clock. So we need to get out of here fairly quick. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. We're going to be sending out emails to everyone, kind of asking for feedback. He'd love to hear back what you guys thought about it, what you else might want to know if you were talking to someone else. The big point I wanted to kind of emphasize that he did as well is that it's all about what you make of it and putting yourself out there. You know, we're all in tech, and people show up for some of the projects. Everyone likes to show up, not everyone likes to necessarily put in. Remember, you get in you get out what you put in. So try to keep yourself motivated and doing things and finding stuff that motivates you. Thanks, guys.
Don't forget we have our Driven Raceway fundraiser this afternoon. It started at noon. It goes till 9 o'clock. So hopefully we'll all see you there for some car racing or some